The last mission, the wind moved through the broken city like a ghost. Old buildings stood like skeletons, silent and empty. Once, this place was full of life. Now, only dust, silence, and memories remained. Captain Rylan walked slowly across the street. His boots crunched the glass underfoot. His armor was scratched, his face tired. But his eyes were sharp, always watching, always ready. He was the last soldier of his unit. The last human in this sector. Maybe the last one on Earth. No one really knew anymore. He stopped near an old shop and checked his scanner. A weak signal blinked on the screen. Possible tech source detected. 200 meters east, it said. He tightened his grip on the pulse rifle and moved forward. The mission was simple. Find any remaining human tech and destroy it before the Zarn could take it. The Zarn, tall gray aliens with cold eyes, had wiped out most of Earth. They didn't want slaves. They wanted silence. Humanity was noise to them. Rylan reached a large building. Part of it collapsed. He entered slowly. Light from the broken roof shining in like a spotlight. Dust danced in the air. He walked down a hallway, each step echoing in the empty space. Suddenly, he heard something. A small sound, like a breath. He stopped and raised his weapon. His heart beat faster. He turned the corner. And there she was, a small girl sat on the floor, holding her knees. She looked no more than 8 years old. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy, but her eyes, they glowed faint blue in the shadows. Rylan aimed his rifle. "Who are you?" he said sharply. She looked up slowly. There was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity. "Are you human?" she asked softly. Rylan didn't lower the rifle, answer the question. He said. The girl stood up. Slowly, carefully. She walked closer. Rylan warned, "Stop right there." But she didn't stop. Instead, she walked up to him and gently tugged his shirt. Then she asked, in a voice small and honest, "Can I call you Dad?" Rylan froze. His hands shook slightly on the rifle. His brain screamed this was a trap, but his heart said something else. He looked at her closely now. Her skin was pale, but her face was human. Her eyes, not completely. She was something else, something between. "Who are you?" he asked again, but softer. "I'm Lyra," she said. "They made me, but I ran away. Made you." Rylan said. She nodded. They used both. Human and Zarn. Rylan felt a chill in his spine. This was worse than he thought. She was a hybrid. He had heard rumors of secret labs, twisted science, failed experiments, but none had ever survived until now. "Why me?" Rylan asked, voice low. She looked at him with sad eyes. "Because you're the only one left," she said, "and I'm alone too." Rylan looked around. No guards, no traps, no devices, just a girl. Or something like one. He sighed deeply. Lowering his rifle just a little, "You're dangerous," he said. She smiled, a soft, broken smile. "Only if I want to be." Before he could say anything more, the scanner beeped loudly. Multiple red dots appeared on the screen. Incoming. Zarn Patrol. It flashed. Lyra turned to the wall and touched a hidden panel. It opened, revealing a dark tunnel. "I know a way out," she said. "But we must go now." Rylan hesitated for a second, then followed her. They moved fast through the tunnel. His mind raced. What was he doing? Trusting a child? A hybrid. But something deep inside told him this was right. Not logical, not safe, but right. They stopped near an old metro station. Lyra looked at him again and asked, "So, can I call you Dad?" He stared at her. The word felt strange, heavy, warm. He didn't know what to say, so he nodded, just once. She smiled again, bigger this time, and in that moment, deep underground, while the world above burned, Ryland, the last soldier, felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Asterisk, they moved through the underground tunnels like shadows. The walls were cracked, and the air smelled old. Each step echoed softly behind them. Captain Ryland kept checking his scanner, but the signal was clean. Lyra walked a few steps ahead. She knew the way like she had been here before. She didn't speak, and neither did Ryland. But his mind was full of questions. Who was this girl? Really? Why did she trust him so quickly? And why did he feel something for her already? They reached a small chamber deep below the city. Rusty lights blinked overhead, and the sound of dripping water filled the silence. Lyra sat down on an old bench and looked up at him. "You're wondering what I am," she said quietly. Ryland nodded. "I've never seen anything like you," he said. "Not human, not Zarn." She looked at her hands, small and delicate. "I was born in a lab," she said. "They called me Project Starling. The Zarn made you." She shook her head. "Humans started the project," she replied. "But after the invasion, the Zarn took over the lab. They used my body, but they also filled my mind with things I didn't want." "What kind of things?" She hesitated. "I can hear voices, not just people, but machines too," she whispered. "Sometimes I dream of stars I've never seen. And places I've never been." Ryland stepped closer, watching her carefully. "You're part XARN. That's why your eyes glow," he said. She nodded slowly. "But I feel human," she added. "I feel pain, I feel fear, and you feel alone," Ryland said. She looked up at him again, eyes wide. "Yes," she said. "Always." Suddenly, the scanner beeped again. 2 signals were approaching from the west tunnel. Ryland raised his rifle. Lyra stood up and reached out her hand. "Wait," she said. He paused. "I know them," she said. "There." Not like others. Before Ryland could react, two Zarn creatures entered the room. They looked different, smaller, thinner. No weapons. Their eyes met Lyra's, and they stopped moving, then they bowed slightly. Ryland was shocked. "What is this?" he asked. "They were with me in the lab," Lyra said softly. "They helped me escape." Ryland didn't lower his rifle. "They're still Zarn," he warned. "But not soldiers," she replied. "They were scientists, prisoners, like me." One of them spoke, its voice like wind through metal. "Human, we mean no harm," it said. "The girl is important." Ryland didn't trust them. He never would. But Lyra stepped between him and the creatures. "They saved my life," she said. "Please, trust me." After a long pause, Ryland lowered his weapon. "I'll trust you," he said, "not them." The Zarn scientists shared data with Lyra, using light and sound. She stood still as images flashed in her eyes. Then she turned to Ryland. "They told me where the others are," she said. "Others." "Other hybrids," she whispered. "Some are still alive, hidden, sleeping." Ryland's heart pounded. "If we can find them," he began. "Yes," she said. "We won't be alone." Suddenly, the lights above flickered. The ground shook slightly. A deep sound echoed through the tunnels. "Hunters," the Zarn scientists said in fear. "They found us. Where do we go?" Ryland asked. Lyra grabbed his hand. "This way," she said, running toward a narrow passage. They moved fast, the sounds of the Zarn hunters growing behind them. Screeches echoed through the tunnels, weapons charging. Ryland fired behind him. As they ran, Lyra suddenly turned and screamed. But it wasn't a normal scream. It was sharp, like a signal. A wave of sound that stopped the hunters. They dropped their weapons and fell to their knees. Holding their heads, Ryland stared at her. Shocked? "What did you do?" he asked. "I made them stop," she said. "Just for now, you could have killed them. I didn't want to." She replied, "I don't want to be like them." They escaped into a chamber with an old ventilation shaft. Ryland pulled. Her up as they climbed at the top. They emerged into the fading light of evening. The ruined city stretched in all directions. Lyra sat beside him, breathing fast. He looked at her, a child, a weapon, a mystery. "You saved us," he said. She looked at him with tired eyes. "I just didn't want to lose you," she said. "Dad, for a moment, the war, the danger, the fear, all disappeared, and all that remained was the strange bond between a soldier and a child who wasn't quite human, but might be the key to saving them all." Night had fallen over the ruins of the city. The sky was dark, full of broken clouds and no stars. Rylan and Lyra moved carefully through the shadows. The ground was cold, and the wind whispered through empty streets. They had escaped the hunters. But they weren't safe. They were never truly safe anymore. Rylan led the way toward an old human communications bunker. It was hidden under the remains of a collapsed tower. He had only been there once, many years ago. "Back when Earth still had a resistance, this place is dead," he said quietly. Lyra looked up at the ruins. "No," she replied. "Something is still calling from inside." Rylan stared at her. "How do you know?" he asked. "I can feel it," she said, touching her head gently. "It's like a voice buried under stone." They climbed down through the rubble. Using an old elevator shaft, each step echoed with dust and forgotten memories. The air was stale, but Lyra didn't seem bothered. They reached a steel door, half open, inside. Was the command room, old, dark, and silent. Screens were cracked, chairs broken, cables hanging like vines, but in the center of the room, a single console still blinked faintly. Rylan approached slowly, brushing off dust. The screen showed one message repeating again and again. "Signal active, origin unknown. This thing shouldn't be working." Rylan muttered. He pressed a few buttons, but the system was mostly dead. Lyra walked over and placed her hand on the panel. Suddenly, the screen came to life. Colors flashed, maps appeared, and a new signal pulsed on the radar. A red dot blinked from deep underground, far from where they stood. "How did you do that?" Rylan asked. Lyra looked surprised. "I didn't," she said. "It responded to me. Where is that signal coming from?" She stared at the blinking red dot. "I think it's another hybrid," she whispered. Rylan didn't answer. He looked at the map. It showed a long-forgotten region near the northern wastelands. No one went there, not since the skyfires burned it black. Suddenly, the console beeped. A voice broke through the speakers, soft, broken, and hard to understand. ... If anyone, hear this. They're coming. Not safe. Protect the girl." Then silence. Rylan and Lyra looked at each other. "That voice," she said. "It was trying to talk to me." He nodded slowly. "And it knew about you," he said. "Who was it?" She asked. Rylan didn't know, but the fear in the voice was real, and so was the warning. They left the bunker. Quickly, the signal had changed everything. Now they had a destination, and maybe someone waiting, but outside, something watched them from above. A small drone hovered silently in the sky, its eye glowing blue. It turned and flew away fast, sending data back to the Zarn High Command. Far across space, inside a cold alien fortress, a Zarn commander studied the image of Lyra on the screen. He narrowed his eyes and gave the order. "Activate the Seekers," he said. "The child must not reach the others." Meanwhile, Rylan and Lyra traveled north. The roads were broken, the land poisoned, but they kept going. Rylan found an old bike in a garage and fixed it using spare parts. Lyra sat behind him, arms wrapped tight around his waist. As they drove through the wastelands, she asked softly, "Do you think we'll find them?" Rylan didn't look back. "I don't know," he said. "But we have to try." Later that night, they camped near an abandoned gas station. The fire was small, and the air was cold. Lyra looked up at the sky, still no stars, only dark clouds. I remember something, she said suddenly. Rylan turned to her in the lab. They used to speak about a ship, she said. A human ship, buried, waiting to wake up. A ship. Yes, she whispered. They were afraid of it. But also curious. Rylan frowned. He remembered stories. A last defense project before Earth fell. A warship powered by ancient tech, hidden underground, never launched, if it's real. He said it could change everything. Lyra nodded. I think the signal is leading us there. They didn't sleep much that night. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming in her sleep. Lyra whispered strange words in a language not human. Rylan sat by the fire, guarding her. Listening to the silence, he didn't know where the road would lead. But something inside told him they weren't just running anymore. They were searching, and something, or someone, was calling back. The sky was turning red, not from the sun, but from the ash in the air. The wasteland stretched far and wide, a land burned and broken. But Rylan and Lyra kept moving, deeper into danger. They rode fast on the old bike, its engine coughing through the dusty wind. Each mile brought them closer to the signal, and closer to something else, something that followed them, unseen but not unfelt. Lyra kept looking back. There's something behind us, she whispered. Rylan didn't doubt her. I had been a soldier too long to ignore the feeling of being hunted. He didn't hear anything, didn't see anything but the silence. It was too perfect, no birds, no wind, no sound, just waiting by sunset. They reached an old service tunnel buried under a collapsed road. Rylan decided to hide there for the night. They rolled the bike inside, lit a small light, and sat quietly. The walls were covered in faded posters and claw marks. Rylan checked his weapon while Lyra stared at the ground. I used to dream about people, she said. People I've never met, faces I don't know, maybe they're memories. Rylan said, maybe, she replied. Or maybe I'm just borrowed. Before he could speak, the ground shook slightly. Not an earthquake, footsteps. Heavy and fast, then silence again. Rylan stood and moved toward the tunnel entrance. He pointed his rifle outward, eyes focused. Then he saw it, a shape. Tall and thin, standing perfectly still in the dust. No face, just a smooth mask. No voice, no breath. It didn't walk, it glided. 1 second it was far. The next, it was closer. A seeker, Rylan whispered. Lyra's eyes widened. They don't stop, she said. They don't sleep. The seeker raised one long arm. Rylan fired. The pulse shot hit its chest. But it didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. Lyra grabbed Rylan's hand. We can't fight it. Not yet, she said. She pulled him deeper into the tunnel. The seeker followed slowly. It didn't run. It didn't need to. It wants me, Lyra said, breathing hard. Then it's going to have to catch you. Rylan replied. They reached a broken section of the tunnel. Steel beams blocked the way forward. Rylan aimed his rifle at the ceiling and fired rocks. Fell, sealing part of the path. They turned and ran the other way. But the seeker was still coming. It moved through the debris like smoke through cracks. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. She closed her eyes, placed her hand on the wall. What are you doing? Rylan shouted, listening. She said, there's something here. The wall beside her lit up faintly, ancient tech buried inside. She pressed harder, and a hidden door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a narrow staircase, leading down into blackness. They rushed inside. The door closing just as the seeker reached it. The sound of claws scratching metal echoed from behind them. Then silence again. Below, they found an old human base. Forgotten and untouched. Lights flickered on slowly, revealing a circular room filled with broken machines. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. Rylan placed his rifle down and sat beside her. "They're getting smarter," he said. "They're scared," Lyra replied. "They know I'm changing." He looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" She opened her hand, and for a brief second, small blue sparks floated above her skin. "I couldn't do this before," she said. "It's like the closer I get to the signal, the more awake I feel." Rylan didn't know whether to be amazed or afraid. "You're not a normal child," he said. "I know," she whispered. "But I don't want to be a weapon." "You're not," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're a person, and you've got me." Lyra smiled, but behind her smile was fear. The Seekers wouldn't stop, and now. The signal was calling louder. Later that night, while Rylan slept beside her, Lyra walked quietly to the center of the room. She placed her hands on the floor and whispered words she didn't understand. The ground responded. A map appeared, glowing. Lines tracing a path through the earth. It ended at a place called Vault Theta. She didn't know what was there, but she knew it was waiting for her, and whatever was inside could end the war or end everything. The path to Vault Theta was hidden beneath the world. No road, no signs, only earth and silence. But the map Lyra had awakened glowed faintly inside her memory, and she followed it like a thread pulling her forward. Rylan drove the bike through a narrow canyon. The air was sharp, and the ground cracked with every turn. Lyra sat behind him, quiet, her eyes focused on nothing and everything. "We're close," she said. Rylan didn't ask how she knew. By now, he had stopped questioning the strange things she felt. They reached a dead end, a giant stone wall standing where the canyon ended. There was no door, no crack, no entrance, just rock. "This is it?" Rylan asked, confused. "Yes," she said, stepping down from the bike. She placed her hand on the stone. Nothing happened. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I am here." A faint hum rose beneath their feet. Lines of light began to appear on the stone, drawing shapes like ancient veins. Then the wall began to move. Slowly sinking into the ground, dust flew into the air, and a cold wind rushed outward. Behind the wall was a tunnel, smooth metal. Untouched by time, they stepped inside. The lights came on by themselves, one by one, guiding their way. Rylan scanned the walls. "This isn't Zarntech," he said. Lyra nodded. "No," she whispered. "This is ours." They reached a massive chamber at the end of the tunnel. What they saw made them both stop in silence. A ship the size of a city block, buried under the earth, sleeping. Its surface was black metal, covered in symbols and markings. Its wings were folded, its engines quiet. But even in silence, it felt alive. "This is the Atlas," Lyra said softly. "The last ship made by humans before the fall." "How do you know that?" Rylan asked. She touched her chest. "I don't know," she said, "but I remember it." They walked up to the ship's hull. Rylan placed his hand on it. "It's warm," he said, surprised. Lyra approached a panel on the side. She didn't press any button, didn't speak. She simply looked at it, and it opened inside. The ship lit up. Soft blue light flowed through the corridors. They entered, stepping into a world untouched by war. The ship didn't feel abandoned. It felt like it had been waiting. Waiting for her. The bridge was round, filled with quiet machines and one central chair. Lyra stepped toward it slowly. A voice echoed through the room, calm and human. "DNA. Confirmed welcome, Commander Lyra." Rylan's eyes widened. "What the hell?" Lyra looked back at him, scared and amazed. "I didn't ask it to do that," she said. The voice continued. "Mission protocol active, final war directive standing by." "What mission?" Rylan asked. Lyra sat in the chair without thinking. The screen in front of her came alive. It showed Earth, and around it, Zarn ships moving like insects. Then it showed something else, a fleet of human ships. Frozen, hidden, never launched. I think this ship was supposed to be the key. She said, the start of a counterattack. But it never launched, Ryland said, because they lost. Lyra added, before it was ready, suddenly, alarms flashed across the screen. Incoming hostile signal detected seeker. Drone locked on our location, they found us, Ryland growled. Can the ship fly? I don't know, Lyra said, her voice shaking. But I think I can ask it. She reached out with both hands and placed them on the control panel. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever before. The ship responded instantly, engines powering. Up lights flickering, the whole chamber shaking outside. The canyon began to split open as the ship prepared to rise. From above, a shadow fell, a massive Zarn ship, dark and silent, moving to block the sky. The Atlas lifted from the ground with a deep hum. For the first time in decades, a human ship rose to fight again. Inside, Ryland took the weapon station. Feels like riding a ghost, he muttered. Lyra sat still, eyes locked on the screen. I can see everything, she whispered. I can feel the stars. The Zarn ship fired. Atlas dodged fast, sharper than anything Ryland had ever flown. He fired back, hitting the enemy ship across its side. The ground below lit up in blue and fire. They escaped into the sky. The ship following the signal Lyra had carried in her blood all along in the quiet after the battle. Lyra looked at Ryland. This ship isn't just a weapon, she said. It's a message. To who? To the rest of them, she replied. The ones still hiding? The stars were no longer silent. As the Atlas ship rose beyond Earth's poisoned sky, a ripple moved through space. Not a sound, but a signal, old, broken. But still breathing, like a heartbeat in a sleeping body, Ryland stood on the bridge. Eyes fixed on the screen. Behind him, Earth turned slowly dark, scarred, but still whole. Lyra sat in the command chair, her eyes glowing faintly. The ship. Listened to her, not just through buttons or wires, but through her voice, her thoughts, her blood. We're not alone, she said quietly. Someone is listening. The Atlas's main antenna turned toward deep space, the signal Lyra had. Carried was now being broadcast again, stronger, clearer. Is that wise? Ryland asked if they find us again. They already know where we are, Lyra replied. So let's see who else remembers us. The ship began scanning for responses. The system found dead satellites, drifting wrecks, and silent beacons. But then a single reply, a code buried in layers of encryption. It blinked once, then again. A voice broke through the static, weak and cracked. This is Bastion 3. Human. Repeat. Human. Ryland stepped forward, eyes wide. I know that name, he said. It was one of our bunker's northern sector. Lyra smiled slightly. They heard us. The Atlas changed course. Cutting through the upper layers of Earth's orbit, clouds swirled below, glowing with stormfire. But above, the stars began to show again, far below. In a ruined outpost buried under snow and steel, an old man leaned over a console. His beard was white, his hands shaking. Behind him, a group of survivors stared at the blinking light. Someone's alive, he whispered, and they have a ship, children, soldiers. Engineer's eyes, once dull, now sparked with something lost long ago. Hope. Back on the Atlas, Lyra closed her eyes again. She saw the new signal, but she saw more others. Scattered pockets of humanity, hidden in mountains, underground caves, frozen cities, waiting, doubting, surviving. They're afraid to answer, she said. They think it's a trap. Then let's prove it isn't. Ryland said, let's show them we're real. Lyra nodded. She turned her focus inward, deeper than before. Her mind reached out, not just through wires and tech, but through something else, something ancient inside her. A pulse, a message that didn't use words, only emotion, courage, pain, fire, memory. It spread like light through darkness. Small outposts began to respond one by one. A signal from a desert vault, another from a deep-sea dome. One more from a forgotten space station drifting above Mars. Humanity was still there, scattered, but not gone, wounded, but not broken. "They're answering," Lyra said softly, and "they're ready," but as hope grew, so did danger, far beyond the moon. The Zarn command ship floated in silence. Inside, a new voice rose among them, colder, harder. "The hybrid has awakened the machine," it said. "They must not unite." The Zarn released the black cloud, a swarm of seeker drones, faster. Then sound, hunters not made of metal, but living code wrapped in shadow. They moved without mass, without limit, and they were headed for Earth, back aboard the Atlas. Rylan read the alerts on the screen. "Multiple contacts incoming," he said. Zarn. No, something worse. The sky above Earth shimmered as the cloud appeared. Darkness moved like liquid fire, covering the stars. The Atlas shook, systems flickering. "They're trying to silence us," Lyra whispered. "Then we scream." Louder, Rylan said, locking the weapon systems. The Atlas fired beams of pure energy into the sky. The cloud split, but only for a moment. More came, endless. "We can't hold them off alone," Rylan said. "We don't have to," Lyra replied suddenly. The radar blinked again. Ships, small, damaged, but real, were launching from Earth. Old warplanes, converted mining rigs, broken transports retrofitted for battle. One by one, the lost pieces of humanity rose into the sky, led by the signal of a girl not fully human, and a ship that had once been forgotten. "This is Captain Rylan of the Atlas," he spoke into the comms. "We stand together, now and always, light up the sky." Dozens of ships opened fire. The night above Earth turned blue and gold. The black cloud burned with every strike for the first time. In years, Earth fought back, and this time, it wasn't just survival. 'Twas rebellion. It was return, and hope had a name. Her name was Lyra. The sky was on fire, not with flames, but with light blue streaks, silver flares. And red scars danced above Earth. Ships twisted through the clouds like insects in a storm. The Atlas flew at the center of it all. Fast, sharp, alive, every system burned hot. Every cannon glowed bright. Inside the ship, Rylan stood firm. His hands locked on the control panel. He wasn't a soldier now. He was a protector, not of Earth, not of war, but of the girl who sat beside him. Lyra, she was still. Her hands resting on the core interface, eyes glowing bright. A quiet storm inside her mind. She was everywhere now, in the ship, in the sky, in the signal, and she was ready. "The others are with us," she said. "Small ships, big ships. Broken ones, they're all rising." Rylan smiled faintly. "We started something." He said. "No," she replied. "We remembered something." The black cloud was shrinking now. The human fleet disorganized, rusty. Wild had cut through it like fire through paper. But in its heart, something remained, a final shape. A Zon dread carrier, larger than any seen before. "It's coming straight for Earth," Rylan said. Lyra stood slowly. "No," she whispered. "It's coming for me." The Atlas locked onto the incoming ship. Scanners buzzed. Its weapons were fully charged. Its shields perfect. "We can't beat that thing in a straight fight," Rylan said. "Then let's not fight straight," Lyra answered. She walked to the center of the bridge. The ship responded instantly. The lights dimmed. The floor beneath her feet began to glow. Rylan stepped closer. "What are you doing?" "Becoming what I was made to be," she said, "but on my own terms." Her voice echoed with something new. Not cold, not alien, but powerful. The Atlas rose higher. Engines glowing with a strange light. Lyra's presence flowed through the ship like a second soul. The dread carrier fired, massive beams of red light ripped across the sky. The Atlas dodged, twisted, moved like no ship should. Inside, Rylan held on tight. "She's not flying it," he whispered. "She is it, Lyra's." Voice came through the comms, clear and strong. "To all human ships, hold fire. Let me through." They obeyed. The Atlas charged alone, straight into the storm. Rylan moved to the gun deck, eyes locked on the dread carrier. His fingers hovered over the manual override. But then he heard her voice again, in his ear this time, soft and close. "Dad," she said. He froze. "Yes." "Thank you." And then the Atlas vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed. It simply blinked out. The dread carrier shook violently. Its lights dimmed, its engines died. And then, from inside its core, a flash of blue light tore outward. It broke in silence, the pieces falling like snow across the upper sky. The Atlas reappeared, smoking, damaged, but still whole. Inside, Rylan dropped to his knees. "Lyra." He shouted. No response. He ran to the center chamber. The lights were dim, the systems cracked. But there she was, standing in the middle, eyes closed, breathing slow. She opened her eyes. "I'm still here," she whispered. Rylan rushed forward and wrapped her in his arms, tight, shaking. "You did it." He said, "We did it," she replied. Outside, human ships circled Earth like a shield. The sky was clear. The Zarn retreating into deep space, signals lit up from all over laughter. Crying, cheers, voices not heard in years. Earth had not been saved, it had saved itself. Lyra looked out the window at the stars. "What now?" she asked. Rylan smiled. "Now, we rebuild." She turned to him and asked gently, "Can I still call you Dad?" He laughed. A real laugh this time. "You never stopped." She took his hand. "Then, Dad," she said, pointing at the stars, "let's finish this." And together they launched again. Not for war, but to find the rest, to gather the broken. Pieces of a species once hunted, and remind the universe that humanity was not just alive, it was rising.